Good morning, everybody. It's 9 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, February 4th. I'm Jane Monreal. Thanks for watching here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Headlines that we are following for you right now. The first is we are waiting to hear from Border Czar Tom Homan. He is scheduled to hold a press conference at 9 o'clock, so that should be happening any minute now out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. He is there dealing with the Fed's response in Minneapolis for these recent protests, including ICE and Border Patrol. So we'll see what he has to say. We'll be dipping into that here on and off throughout the morning. Speaking of ICE, we did learn yesterday that ICE is considering a new detention center, two places in North Carolina, one in Greensboro. And we're also following a couple of local stories. The first is being a suspect arrested now in a quadruple homicide where in Concord, 4 people were shot, 2 of them deceased. So we're staying on top of that. And we are staying on top of this freezing weather still happening right now in the Charlotte metro and our surrounding counties. A majestic storm now in the Live Impact studio.
Good morning.
Good morning. Still icy getting out of my neighborhood. I don't know about you, ladies.
Did you notice that it has gotten any better since yesterday? Because yesterday the big story was we finally saw temperatures rise above freezing, and even our overnight lows last night and this morning didn't drop below freezing.
Yeah.
So we've had like multiple hours in a row of above freezing temperatures. So
No, some
kind of a
good
little helpful.
melting.
There's melting, it's slush,
Slow.
and it's just
It's
honestly
slush.
everything's wet. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
what you expect
And
is
wet,
everything's
sure.
melting, but everything is wet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Melting.
wet. And the areas that are in the shade,
Yes.
which is the street right in front
It's
of my
slushy slush,
house,
Yeah.
is frozen.
We kind of still have a
It
mixed
is a
bag
tundra.
of those conditions when we're looking outside. Some roads are
Right.
looking good, others not so much, but definitely helpful that we're seeing warmer temperatures. Yeah, so this morning we woke up, temperatures were in the mid-30s, and it felt so nice, above freezing, and we're now going to stay above freezing throughout the rest of the day today and even overnight tonight and into tomorrow. Our temperatures don't get all that cold. Right now it's 41 degrees if you are right here in Charlotte. Not the most beautiful day. We have a whole lot of cloud coverage out there, and we will stay cloudy today. We not only have those slightly warmer temperatures today, but we're also looking at some rain. Now this is just going to be our typical rain. We're not concerned about freezing rain or anything like that. However, our counties northwest of Mecklenburg, you may see some of that rain transition into a bit of a wintry mix at times. However, I'm not seeing any big impacts whatsoever. Tomorrow, another cloudy and cold day. Temperatures tomorrow really only climb into the low 40s. And then Friday morning, I think Friday morning we're really going to have to keep a close eye out on those roads because we'll eventually have those cold temperatures returning. And because the ground will be so wet, we could see a bit of a refreezing. We don't have a refreezing out there this morning though, again, because temperatures are above that freezing mark. As far as the rain goes over the next few days, yes, we have rain showers today. It's going to be likely for most of us, and then very isolated chances tomorrow. Most of us will be dry though. And then this weekend we are staying dry. If you have any plans this weekend, Saturday looks really pretty, very seasonal conditions, sunny skies. Sunday, of course, the Super Bowl. If you want to do some things before then, it shouldn't be too bad either. Let's get straight to our satellite and radar. So here's the system that we're watching. You can see all the green indicating just rain moving across the southeast. Here in the Carolinas, some of us receiving some rain, but most of it right now, it's south of Mecklenburg County. Let me just zoom it in just a bit so we can get a better idea as to where the rain is currently falling. So mainly for South Carolina counties, you're waking up to some scattered rain showers. We don't have a ton going on outside right now, but I do suspect that by the afternoon we will have some widespread precipitation. So let's walk you through your hour-by-hour forecast. This is what our radar could look like right around noon, so lunchtime forecast. You can join me over on WCNC Midday Show. I'll be giving you the latest forecast there. We're looking at temperatures that'll mainly be into the upper 30s, low 40s. So at this point, I'm not seeing any places where it's actually dropping below that freezing mark. So rainy, and then as we head through the evening time hour around 5 o'clock, maybe dinner time or your commute home this evening, just be prepared to drive in the rain. Drive a little slower, especially if you're going to be commuting in areas where there is still some snow left over on the ground. I mean, if you want the snow to go away, this rain is a welcomed return because it helps to really start melting a lot of things. Temperatures to the south of us, again, going to be rising into the mid 40s. Lancaster, mid to upper 40-degree temperatures today. And then notice what happens as we progress throughout the later evening hours tonight. Here's about 10 o'clock tonight. Most of Mecklenburg County looks all right, but you start to see that pink there. The pink is really, it's a wintry mix of rain, snow, and possible sleet. It's a very small band of it. I mean, it's a brief little wintry mix, and then it's out of here. To the north of I-40, though, could we see some of that rain just transition into some snowflakes? I think it's possible, but with our warm temperatures that we have outside yesterday and then today, I don't think really a lot of it's going to stick out on the ground, and truly it's not going to be all that impactful. Just don't be surprised if you see that wintry mix. Again, that would be north of Charlotte and especially north of I-40. Heading into 8 o'clock hour, this takes us into our Thursday. Temperatures mainly into the upper 20s, low 30s, so a little chilly heading out the door tomorrow. However, it's not that cold blast of Arctic air. I know some people are a little concerned about whether or not those roads are going to be icy, and truthfully, I think it's not until Friday morning that we'll have to be mindful that there could be a return of slick and icy spots. We've really going to enjoy they're not warm temperatures, but they're warmer than where we have been earlier this week. I mean, we had a low of 10 degrees. That was bitterly cold. We've been working with a lot of cold Arctic air, and what the forecast is today, yeah, it's cold. It's definitely not warm, but it's not so cold. We don't have that extreme cold that's making any of the precipitation freeze onto anything, or no concerns there. Here's about 4 o'clock. This is still tomorrow, so cloudy day. Again, temperatures tomorrow only climb into the upper 30s, low 40s. That's our daytime high. Remember, our average, we should be at about 54, so we'll still be well below that. Now, Friday morning, we're going to be a little concerned for those slick and icy spots because at this point we will have had plenty of moisture on the ground, and this is when temperatures start to drop a few degrees below that freezing mark. Especially up in the mountains, we're looking at 20s, even teens out there in Boone. For us, likely going to be waking up to mid to upper 20s heading out the door on our Friday. We'll get through that though, because after that, the rest of our weekend looks pretty nice. Current temperatures right now, we're at 41 in Charlotte, 46 across Monroe. As you're looking over towards Boone, plan for mid 30-degree temperatures. Notice the parking lot, kind of a weird background, but we wanted to show you that just to give you perspective as to what the roads are looking like, parking lots, sidewalks, that sort of thing. I mean, just yesterday, a lot of these spots were just still completely covered over with snow and ice, and truthfully, yesterday did a lot of really nice melting as those temperatures were a bit warmer, and then you add that on top of some rain today, and I think we're really going to be looking quite nice as we head towards the weekend. Wind chills, it basically feels exactly what our air temperature is like, and yesterday we only topped off at 46 degrees, and today it's basically a rinse and repeat, but we are adding in the rain. So if you have any outdoor activities today, I would definitely keep the rain gear handy. It's going to be pretty scattered in nature. It's not going to be widespread rain, heavy rain all day, nothing like that. Throughout the rest of the day though, here's our hourly forecast. This is for the Charlotte area. Cloudy skies, small chances of some mist and drizzle this morning. I already saw that. I was doing traffic on WCNC earlier, and we were seeing some of that in our Boone cameras, Blowing Rock cameras. Wouldn't be surprised to see that here in Charlotte too. As far as scattered rain chances go, it seems more likely into the afternoon and evening time for us, and then it quickly starts to wrap up. Let's take a look at some of those temperatures though. Up in the mountains, upper 30s, low 40s, 40-degree temperatures from Fleetwood to Banner Elk. Across the foothills, mainly mid to upper 40s there as well. 47 in Morganton. I know you guys will be excited to see some of that snow and ice melt because you've definitely got quite a bit. 46 out towards Gastonia and Shelby, and then right around Lancaster, you'll be nearing 50 degrees today. So above freezing, that's a big part of the weather story. Cloudy definitely today and tomorrow. But then the good thing is on Friday, we'll have to watch for those slick and icy spots because of how cold it's going to be. 25 degrees. That does make for some concerns, especially on bridges. Bridges are a watch spot when you're traveling, especially early in the morning and late at night, because you have cold air going over it and under it. So then it's able to quickly freeze over faster, especially if there's moisture left over on the ground. But then once we get through kind of an icy start to the morning, 49 degrees with a good mix of sun and clouds on Friday, heading into the weekend. Saturday, that's going to be a really pretty day if you want to do anything outside. 50 degrees, sunny skies on Saturday. Overnight lows tonight, remember, dropping right around that freezing mark. So heading out the door tomorrow, going to, feel a little cold, but not as cold as 10 degrees like we had earlier this week. And then Climate Prediction Center is also looking at a warming trend taking us into next week with above average temperatures on the way. I know many of you will be looking forward to that, especially after an ice storm and then a snowstorm and then freezing cold temperatures. You can start to see that warm up here in our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Again, not the most beautiful couple of days ahead. Today's kind of the rainy day. Chris mentioned that today is National Soup Day. I was like, oh, well, it's a good day to have a nice hot cup of soup or a bowl of soup. Sunny skies just in time for the weekend. Super Bowl Sunday, of course, is upcoming Sunday. 45 degrees for our high. If you want to do something outside for Sunday, not looking too bad. And then next week, we're going to just start out next week with 60-degree temperatures.
Oh, hallelujah.
So That is going to feel so nice. And I mean, by that point, the snow and the ice shouldn't be. It'll just be a thought from the past.
Yeah. Right now, it's just nasty looking piles of
Dirty,
exhaust,
slush.
dirty grossness that's
Yes.
taking up the edges of the street.
We're ready for warmer weather. We're ready
Yeah.
for sunshine.
yeah.
Get outta here.
Yeah.
Get the
I
sunshine.
mean, I'll take whatever, 61 and
65?
sunny
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
any day.
I will say I'm keeping a close eye on the Valentine's weekend forecast.
Oh, yeah.
Next week is showing warmer
Right.
temperatures, but there could also be some stormy weather. So gotta kind of stay tuned for that
Stormy
one.
weather.
Not winter weather, but above average temperatures. With that could provide fuel for some storms and some rain, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. That was Valentine's Day?
Yeah,
That weekend?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. Majestic storm here in the Live Impact studio, breaking it down. Looking forward to the melt. We need to get kids back to school in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Time right now is 9:14 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Borders are holding a press conference live out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. He has just announced that he is drawing down 700 ICE agents immediately. Let's go ahead and listen in live on Live Impact News.
Depend on the cooperation, continued cooperation of local and state law enforcement and the decrease of the violence, the rhetoric, and the attacks against ICE and Border Patrol. The federal law enforcement personnel, ICE and CBP and other partner agencies are patriots. And they've carried out their duties patriotically, with integrity, with professionalism and compassion. I've said this many times, these men and women don't hang their heart on a hook when they come to work. President Trump and I strongly stand with them in the critical work they do to prevent harmful or otherwise dangerous people from entering or remaining in this country. As part of the surge operation here, numerous criminal aliens have already been arrested. We've arrested 14 people who had homicide convictions, 139 people with sex-related offenses, 28 gang members, 139 assault convictions, 87 sex offenses, 28 gang members have been arrested, just to name a few. We're taking a lot of bad people off the street. Everybody should be grateful to that. Who in their right mind would want these dangerous criminals walking around their communities? Everyone has a constitutional right to peacefully protest. President Trump and I, we completely support that. At the same time, professional law enforcement officers should and need to be able to perform their sworn duties without being harassed, impeded, or assaulted. I want anyone to report instances of alleged misconduct or wrongdoing. There's a way to report that. The Trump administration is taking violations of 18 U.S.C. 111, which is assaulting, impeding, interfering. We're taking that seriously. If you violate the law, you will be federally prosecuted. In the past month, 158 people have been arrested for violation of 111. 85 cases have been already accepted for prosecutions. The rest remain pending. We've had 9 indictments of those who raided the church, and additional cases are being worked. Additionally, I've been saying this for almost a year now. Hateful, extreme rhetoric against ICE personnel is completely unacceptable. Please stop. I said back in March of this year, if the hateful rhetoric didn't stop, I was afraid there would be bloodshed. And there has been. President Trump and I, Secretary.
All right, you've been listening to Border Czar Tom Homan out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, talking in a live press conference right now on their immediate drawdown of 700 ICE agents from the city. Also talking about his request for the rhetoric against ICE to stop and that it is not productive. We're going to take a break right now. We are rolling on this press conference, by the way, so we will play this back for you this afternoon on Live Impact News in its entirety. But that is the gist of his announcement this morning. A break here now on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back here on Live Impact News at 9:20 on WCNC Plus, I'm Jane Monreal. And this morning, Dr. Jane Goodall's passing at age 91 in October of 2025 leaves an extraordinary legacy and asking a lot of questions about the next generation and what conservation is going to look like. We're joined right now by Azzedine Downs, President and CEO of the International Fund for Animal Welfare and a member of Jane's Council for Hope. Thank you for joining us, Azzedine.
Thank you very much for having me.
You were a friend, knew her personally. The message today, what does the world need right now in terms of the hope that we should hold on to?
we start with hope, and that hope is not just a feeling, it's a strategy for change. And with the passing of someone as incredible as Jane, the question on my mind is whether people will listen to that message with such intensity as when she delivered it. So Jane asked me and the Council for Hope to turn that hope into action.
And so what is this action with Path of Hope?
People can feel overwhelmed because they want to take action on every problem at once. Actions must be translated into small steps. So being hopeful and spreading the message of positivity is a step in the right direction. It's something everyone can do. So don't give up and believe that change is possible.
Yeah, I mean, today's world and a lot of the things that we're exposed to with the help of the smartphone and social media, a lot of things are facing us in the way of those kinds of challenges, and not to be so downtrodden. When it starts, start small, daily practices at home. What does that look like? How do you start?
So, focusing on animals. Animals love unconditionally, and that's why humans have the relationship that they have with their pets. In fact, you may be surprised that Jane's favorite animal was her dog and not a chimpanzee. And there's an innocence about wildlife. They have a place in nature just as humans do. So that connectivity we share with animals across the globe on so many levels must not be underestimated.
I was just caught up with all the images, love the elephants. And yeah, I mean, we do associate the chimpanzee with Dr. Goodall. And then as far as something that is happening on the ground right now that shows us hope is not abstract, creating real change, how does that relationship with animals and starting there, how does that change things?
So we have to connect people to the wildlife. And historically, people have been removed from the conservation equation, and it's still a challenge to convince policymakers and scientists that conservation is really about human behavior. So here at IFA, our mission is animals and people thriving together in the place that we call home. So, for example, in Kenya, we support women's cooperatives, small business, education, so that the people who live alongside wildlife actually see the economic benefits in protecting those animals. So it begins with respect and resources for those communities to live safely.
It looks like massive efforts. What can one do today to take that small first step?
The one thing you can do is to believe in the message of hope. And once you feel positive about the future, there are many small things that you can do. Go into nature, experience it. Nature has healing powers. Listening to the wind, gazing upon and listening to running water, listening to the leaves rustling in the trees. These are all healing things. Right now, the world is chaotic and we need calm. And our planet can indeed protect us if we let it. And the world in which we live is not a patient place, but nature is indeed very patient.
I love the message. I love nature, the animals, everything you've said, I can get on board with. Azadine Downs, thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing your message of hope.
Thank you so much. And for more, just go to our website, ifa.org. And thank you so much for having me.
ifa.org. Thank you, Azadine. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Time right now is 9:27 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Want to take you out to a live picture right now of Charlotte Water investigating a water main break. This is near Summit Avenue and West Moorhead Street in East Charlotte. Updates coming from social media, but right now our photojournalist Phil is over there and shooting this video for us. So live video right now, as you can see that it is closed in that area. This is also westbound Moorhead Street, now closed at I-77. So something to keep in mind as well. But we've had a number of these broken water mains. This is a more exact location, West Moorhead Street and Calvert. Utilities are spraying the underground utilities before crews go ahead and dig, but drivers should go ahead and use Freedom Drive as an alternate route. So we'll keep tabs on this scene, something to keep in mind for your drive this morning through East Charlotte. Back here in the Live Impact studio on WCNC Plus, it appears that border czar Tom Homan is continuing to speak. It looks like he's taking some questions from media. This is out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, after announcing 700 personnel will be leaving that area immediately. Let's listen in on Live Impact News.
Safely. I also am concerned that every person we're looking for is taken into custody safely. The best way to do that is to have a target enforcement operation, a well-planned operation. That's the way we've done it for decades.
So should we expect to see no more of that?
Pardon me?
Should we expect to see no more of those citizenship checks?
I have directed target enforcement operations, and we'll hold our officers to the highest standards.
Right.
These are professionals. Again, these. I wish every one of you could put that gun on your hip, put that Kevlar vest on, go out there and put up what they put up with. Considering the hate, the rhetoric, the attacks, I think they performed remarkable, and I'm proud of them. We came here, President Trump sent me here. I didn't ask to come here. President Trump sent me here to help de-escalate what was going on. We're not surrendering our mission. We're not walking away from our mission. We're just making this more effective and more smart. This is smart law enforcement. Smart law enforcement makes it safer.
Realistically, how much work is there left to do here? And with this unprecedented cooperation, how long could this take, best case scenario in your eyes, to get the job done?
Look, I said it. We want to get out. We want to get back to the normal operational footprint here, but that depends on the people out there putting up illegal roadblocks. That depends on people that want to intimidate and interfere and put hands on ICE officers. Tone down the rhetoric. Stop violating the law and impeding and interfering with us, and they'll draw down be quicker. I still got more discussions to have with some local law enforcement officers looking for their cooperation. The more cooperation we get, the less rhetoric and hate we see, and the less attacks means we can draw down even more quicker. So, a lot of this has to do with assistance from the community. We want to get these men and women home. They got a job to do at home. And I think we come a long ways. I'm actually, yesterday afternoon I was sitting on my chief of staff, I'm actually amazed at the cooperation and agreements we already talked about and the willingness to work with us. We're doing better than I ever thought we would. Seriously. And I'm excited about getting back to the business of enforcing immigration law without without arresting people for 111 for interference and impeding. We just want to do what we've done for 30 years, 40. I've done this 40 years. We want to get back to doing the job, and that's what we plan on doing. And we're not. I want to keep this because I keep hearing it and hearing it and hearing it. We're not surrendering the president's mission on a mass deportation operation. If you're in the country illegally, if we find you, we'll deport you. But this is about target enforcement operation, and that's what we're going to be doing.
Last question, go ahead.
You've been talking about these filter blockades. People, just regular people, protesters are checking IDs, they're running people's plates, and they're not letting people who they think are ICE agents through. But we've seen Minneapolis Police Department roll by and ask these protesters, are they doing okay, and they let these things stay up for extended periods of time. What do you make of MPD's lack of action on this matter?
When I was away to wear the roadblocks yesterday, I called the chief of police, and he went and disbanded them after I got off the phone with him. He has promised to take enforcement action. It's illegal. You can't do that. And again, a message to those folks, what are you doing? You really think you can stop a licensed CBP from doing the job? It's a joke. Only people you're hurting is your own community who wants to go and get groceries, pick up the dry cleaning, or go to work, whatever. You're just hindering them. Stop. Stop.
No more questions.
Clarification on the body
No more
cameras.
questions, guys.
Just a
Thank
clarification.
you.
Mr. Homan, could you just talk about the targeted list? How big
You're
is
asking
that
county jails to
list?
report those only have misdemeanors?
And you've been watching a live press conference from Border Czar Tom Homan out of Minneapolis, talking about the ICE agents being drawn down, but still sticking to regular operations, or for the hope of regular operations in the Twin Cities. But again, 700 agents are going to leave the area immediately. Want to update you right now on the breaking news situation with Charlotte Water investigating this water main break, and want to clarify the location where crews are near Summit Avenue and West Moorhead, not Westmoreland, but West Moorhead. So I-77 is closed near that area, and this is going to affect the westbound lanes of westbound Moorhead Street, now closed at I-77. But you can see there it is a tight squeeze and a lot to clean up. Drivers should go ahead and use Freedom Drive as an alternate. Something to keep in mind, where we are going to monitor things here in West Charlotte with a broken water main. And we're going to take a break on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back here now at 9:36 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Today is the actual first day of the Olympics. Kicking things off is the curling event. This is a couple days before the opening ceremony on Friday, which you can watch here on WCNC Charlotte. And we'll bring you the latest updates and winners, and hopefully a lot of gold medals announcement to tell you about. So with that in mind, we're going to stay on this global task of talking about what's happening around the world. This is a live event happening right now where dozens of top diplomats from other countries are gathering at the State Department for an inaugural critical minerals ministerial, an initiative by the Trump administration aimed at diversifying global supply. Secretary of State Mark Rubio, as well as Vice President J.D. Vance, expected to deliver remarks. Let's go ahead and listen in on Live Impact News.
seeing surging demand for products downstream of the supply chain, including manufactured products like smartphone, chips, telecom infrastructure, industrial robots, machinery, and much more. My friends, the pie is rapidly expanding, and the United States accounts for 30% of global consumption. So we're taking steps to narrow the gap between what we produce and what we consume. But in order to merely keep a pace with global demand, in the U.S. and abroad, we need to surge production capacity at home as well as in partner countries. David sits at the very center of this mission. His work is foundational to the strategic resilience of our country. He is tasked with the monumental challenge of de-risking our critical mineral dependencies, ensuring that the United States and our allies remain unassailable in the face of systemic competition. David brings a level of rigor and foresight that is essential for our department's mission and for the country at large. Please join me in welcoming David Copley.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Jacob, for that. And thank you all for being here today. Thank you to the Vice President for his remarks and for his leadership. Thank you, Secretary Rubio, for hosting. And thank you to President Trump for his visionary and forward-leaning leadership on the critical minerals issue. The President understands the need to secure the foundational elements of the modern economy, and he has prioritized this issue as a matter of national security and economic prosperity. I'm going to speak with you all today to provide an overview about what we're doing in the United States to fix the critical minerals problem. We know this is an issue that will require a global solution and teamwork. Of the 57 minerals on our critical minerals list, over a dozen aren't even mined in the United States. So this is truly a global challenge. In the United States, for a number of decades, we've neglected our mining sector and frankly been happy to outsource mining activities to others around the world. We've had some of the worst mine development timelines in the world in the United States. 29 years to build an average mine because our permitting framework and our litigation framework have been so onerous. Mining in the United States has been perceived as a dirty old world industry. So we haven't.
Time right now is 9:39, approaching 9:40 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We break away from that initiative inaugural event on minerals happening right now. And we want to talk to VA Secretary Doug Collins because it has been 1 year since he became the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. And this morning we want to check in the 1 year mark. And Secretary Collins, thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News.
Glad to be here.
You have been leading the efforts now to transform how America cares for those who have served our country. What are you looking like a year later?
Well, I think we've made a lot of progress. I think we started off by simply reminding ourselves here at the VA that the only reason we exist is the veteran. So when you put that first and you don't put the organizational priorities and the organizational structure and the organizational policies and procedures that a lot of times we're getting in the way of helping veterans, then you put the veteran first, then it's the whole way you look at it. So by doing that, we've been able to lower disability wait times, claims, getting them processed, from over 260,000 of the backlog to under 100,000. Our hospitals were opening more than 20 plus clinics over the last year. We're remodeling many of our hospitals. We're doing projects that are designed to take care of the veteran. So at the end of the day, it's about putting the veteran first. And that's been the biggest reorganization that we've had, is just a mindset of that we're going to live to standards.
Yeah, I mean, you serve, 9 million veterans annually. What do you see as the most pressing challenge these days?
I think the most pressing challenges is making sure that we're lowering the burden so that veterans getting the health care they need. There's still a lot of veterans out there who don't take care or have not applied for their benefits that they've earned. And I think it's just making sure that we have the ability to reach out to those, especially our younger generation warfighter who is coming out of the military now, transitioning out. Those are the kind of challenges that we need to make sure that they have continuity of care, especially if they've experienced anything dealing with concussion, traumatic brain injury, or mental health issues that they need. We need to make sure that we're doing a good transition there so that the VA can continue to help them as they progress in life.
Trying to service everyone. How are you addressing the staff shortages, particularly when it comes to mental health?
Well, right now our staff, our mental health wait times have actually decreased, and others. I mean, it's an interesting line out there about staff shortage at the VA. But I have just an interesting statistic that says that in the last 5 years we've increased our staff full-time equivalencies by 14%, while our actual workload has only increased 6%. So again, the before and after picture of the VA is that you had to have a lot of people and you had to have a lot of money thrown at problems, but yet we saw our wait times increase and we saw our backlogs go up. And what we're seeing now is if you put people in the right places and you give them the right direction, we're able to make changes. And I think that's the big difference now. We're not as concerned about how big we are. We're concerned about what kind of outcomes the veterans are having.
Yeah, and there's also an ongoing debate about the privatization of VA care. How does the role of community care compare with traditional VA care?
Well, there's no debate about privatization. It's not happening in the VA, and that's something that people talk about when we say community care. But the law of the Mission Act from a few years ago says that veterans who are a certain distance away from our hospitals or in the wait time to get in to see a doctor, they can choose to go into community. We've actually made that easier by letting doctors have best medical interest and say between the veteran and their caregiver, it would be better for them to get care closer to where they are or outside the facility. That's simply the duality of who we are at the VA. It's not privatization. It's not anything we do direct care. I have many patients who get direct care services from our medical center, but yet have an orthopedic doctor who takes care of them on something else outside the VA. So it's really a symbiotic relationship that follows the law and allows us to treat and help our veterans in the best possible way.
Looking ahead to this next year, what would you consider a successful time as your tenure so far?
I think continuing the process of what we're doing is focusing on veterans, but also looking at our reorganization of our healthcare system, which is designed to put the hospitals and the clinics at the tip of the spear instead of being sort of spread out, left on their own with a vast bureaucracy above it that can't give it answers, can't give policy directions. We're reorganizing to where everything else is now supporting our 170 plus hospitals, 1,200 clinics, so that they're able to do what they need to do more efficiently, just as we have been at the Benefits Administration, getting the wait times down, making it easier for folks to apply for the benefits that they've already earned.
And Secretary Collins, I must ask, following the events in Minneapolis and the shooting of Alex Preddy, VA staff, are there concerns from other VA staff when it comes to taking care of our veterans?
No, the tragedy that occurred there, and my condolences go to the Preddy family and to our wonderful workers in Minneapolis, and we're continuing to give them all the help that they need to process this very tragic situation. But I will have to say, even in Minneapolis and others, our veterans are still getting the best care that they possibly can by a very well-dedicated group of workers.
If a veteran is watching this right now, what do you want them to know about their situation if they're struggling with getting care?
Well, if they're struggling with getting care, it's just call. Let us know. I mean, dial 988. They can call the crisis line, and we can get them to someplace. If they're having trouble finding where to go, they can go online. They can go to my social media and comment. Send a message on my social media. Go to va.gov. They can go to 1-800-MY-VA-411. There's a lot of ways for them to reach out. Don't feel like they're having to sit there alone. They can actually reach out. Nobody should have to pay anybody. This is something else we need to think about. The VA services are here. We can access those for free. You don't have to pay somebody to help you get the services that you need.
All right. I hope our viewers know that, and a lot of resources there. VA Secretary Doug Collins, thank you for your time. Appreciate checking in.
Thanks, Jane. Appreciate it.
And we'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
Thanks, Secretary. Have a good one.
At 9:48 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. A busy morning right now, not only across the country, but here in our state of North Carolina. The sentencing hearing for mass shooter suspect Austin Thompson continues. Yesterday, hearing from several families of the victims where 5 people were shot fatally back in 2022. Thompson has already pleaded guilty and facing charges on at least 5 counts, but he is now in the sentencing part of the hearing. So we're going to go ahead and listen in. Want to let you know this is also on our secondary channel on WCNC Plus if we have to break away and bring you a different feed. But here it is now on Live Impact News.
That it was, yes. By where the gaming chair was and then the chair that was next to that.
Okay, we'll go back to 4720, which is the first photograph. Do you see it here at all?
Is that it right there on the left side? Yes, that's it. If I could elaborate just a little bit, that's okay. The gaming chair was pretty much where it was, and then there was blood. So to the left, it was determined based on the evidence that's there in the blood that the gaming chair was there facing the TV when I believe that the shot to the back of the head occurred. And blood then spattered on both sides of that onto the pillow and then onto the chair. And most likely the victim, James, kind of fell over onto that chair, which is why there's more blood on that.
All right, and if we zoom in on the gaming chair, does there also appear to be like a game controller and headset on it?
That's correct.
Okay.
Scene with the placards, we're kind of following those placards as they're going back toward the back of the residence. There's a couch there that's on the right hand side if you were facing those placards moving toward the back, and that's a blood smear that is, well, in my opinion, moving from where the gaming console was or chair was back toward the back bedroom.
Okay. And the next photograph, 4993, we're moving further down.
Yes, sir.
And another placard.
Yes, sir.
And the next photograph, which will be 5005, are we now at the end where that last placard was, and do we again see a blood smear?
But yes, there's a blood smear there on the other end of the couch, about the same level as the first one. And then you see the continuation in this photo of another placard, G, that is going to the back bedroom there, primary bedroom. So the smear kind of continues around the couch into that bedroom.
Okay. And so we'll go to 5056, which is the next photo. Is this G?
That is correct.
And it doesn't show well, but to your memory, did there appear to be blood smears on the ground there?
It's either the ground or there's there on the door. I can't tell based on this picture if that's a blood smear that's there or not. But there, for the placard to be there would have been an indication of blood.
All right. And then the next photograph, which is 5086. We've got more placards. Is this the master or the primary bedroom?
That's correct. It was what I determined to be the primary bedroom. The placards follow all the way back from the gaming chair all the way through what I would call the living room area of the residence into the primary bedroom. And each placard, there is blood smear on the floor.
Okay. And we see this doorway here at the end. Is this the primary bathroom that you entered into that had James in it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, I think there are some photos that may show this a little better, but on the bed here, was there anything of note?
There's 2 long guns there on the bed, if I remember correctly, and I believe there was a bag that was also there on that bed.
Okay. And so the next photograph, which is 5116, is this that master bedroom leading into the bathroom?
That is correct.
And we can see, unfortunately, feet there.
Yes.
Okay. Now, to the right in that photograph is placard 28. Do you know what that was?
I do. So when we went in there, initially I didn't recall seeing it, but then as we came back through did a secondary search of the residence, I do recall seeing that note that was there on the dresser.
Okay, and we'll move ahead then to 5131. Is this the note?
That is the note.
And do you know what it says?
Sure. It says, James dead inside, don't look.
And sitting on top of that note, what is this?
That is a spent cartridge from a from.
Okay. Do you know if that was a 20 later determined to be?
Yes, it was a 22.
Now 5275, which is the next photo, I believe this is inside of that bathroom. Is this the doorway leading back out into the bedroom?
So that is the doorway that's leading back out to the bedroom, and so this is just inside the bathroom to the right, and it's about halfway up the wall. So about where you can see where the door jamb would be, where the I guess doorknob.
Here.
So it's a little high, yes, sir. So it's a little higher than the rest of the smears, like on the couch. So it's a little bit higher, and then on the floor there is where James is laying.
All right. And we've got some photos that we'll discuss about that.
Sure.
Skipping ahead to the next photograph that we have, is this back into the primary bedroom?
This is the primary bedroom, and with the firearm that's there on the bed, and then the bag. 2 firearms, yes.
And this is the bag you were talking about?
Yes, sir.
And then the next photograph, then, is that inside of that bag?
That is correct.
And this appear to be ammunition?
It is ammunition.
Then 5701, we're still in that primary bedroom?
Yes, this is a closet. The dresser with the note is in the front of the picture there. This is a closet that's over to the right.
Okay. And was this of note because these boxes had...
That's correct. So there's a box that's there, and I believe that box had a scope was on that, in the box at some point.
So 5713 is the next photo. Is that inside of that box?
Yes, sir.
Let's say Weaver scope?
Yes.
All right. And then there's another box that was in there as well, which is 5716.
That is correct, and that is a box of ammunition.
All right. The next photo, when you go back out of that bedroom, is 5752, and kind of, can you orient us here about where we are and what was of note to you in this location?
Yes. Again, my recollection and not having remembered this for 3 years, but the bathroom that's there on the left, I want to say that's where the mother was when we entered the residence and actually had to get her out of there. If I remember right, the garage would be back over to the right-hand side, not pictured, the garage door. But leading into that was what I later determined to be Austin's bedroom.
This?
Straight ahead, yes.
Okay. And is this his brother's bedroom?
That was what I later determined, yes.
All right. And from this doorway, can you see a gun on that bed?
I do see a long style gun on the bed.
All right. The next photograph is 5755, and you can again see the gun on the left. Is this the bedroom that you determined to be James's?
That is correct.
Okay. And
Again, you can watch this hearing taking place right now out of Raleigh. It is the sentencing hearing for mass shooting suspect Austin Thompson. This is on our secondary channel here on WCNC Plus. We're going to break away for about 2 minutes on Live Impact News and be right back. Coming up at 10 a.m. here on a Wednesday, February 4th, on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. A special conversation right now with Art Alexakis, the iconic frontman of the multi-platinum rock band Everclear, known for hits like Santa Monica, Father of Mine, which I've been kind of humming in my head all day, thanks to our producer Carlene, gave me that earworm. But beyond his music, he has also been living with relapsing multiple sclerosis, or MS. And joining him today is his neurologist, Dr. Regina Berkovich, an internationally recognized expert in MS treatment and research. Good morning, you two. Thanks for joining us here on Live Impact News.
Good morning. Thanks for having us, Jane.
Art,
Thank you, Jane.
Thanks, you guys. You look fabulous, both of you. Art, I want to start with you, with your fabulous career over 3 decades with Everclear. Can you take us back to the moment when you first learned of something might be wrong, which led to your diagnosis?
Yeah. Again, thanks for having us. And you're right. I've had a blessed life and a blessed career. About 15 years ago, I started having symptoms that seemed a little different. Just balance, fatigue, vision issues that I hadn't had before. Some emotional issues, irritability, rage, and it's they slowly progressed over the years. So I went to a doctor, and about 10 years ago, I got diagnosed with MS, and I've been living with it ever since.
Yeah, so when you hear the words multiple sclerosis, how does that change your perspective on your health and your life and the way you operate as a musician?
When I first heard the diagnosis, it scared me, and it scared me and my wife. And then we learned more about it. We went online, we talked to people, and I went to a doctor and learned that it wasn't as scary as I thought it was. And it's just something that makes me try harder every day. And through exercise and diet and treatment, it's been a very big, important part of my life.
Dr. Berkovich, for those who may not be familiar now, can you explain what happens to the body when someone has this condition?
Sure. So multiple sclerosis is disease of the central nervous system, inflammatory process that affects the insulation surrounding the central nerves. And all functions of those nerves are basically the symptoms that patients may experience. And that can be fatigue, emotional symptoms, the muscle weakness, problems with balance, problems with the bladder function, sensory loss, vision loss. So multiple different symptoms, and they can be combined in very different ways for different people. And it's not a rare disease. Nearly 3 million of people are currently living with multiple sclerosis worldwide.
Is there something that is the root cause of MS, why it affects people at certain times of their life, and the way to which the degree it affects people?
Definitely. It's somewhat an enigma till now. However, we know that it's a disease that affects mostly people in their young age, at the primes of their lives. And there could be different potential factors. We know about low vitamin D, exposure to smoking, exposure to pollution. There are, theories that exposure to the mononucleosis virus is very important as well. So still, whenever you have multiple factors like this, you know that we don't have one single cause of this. And this is why for people who get diagnosed with MS, it becomes extremely important to take an active role in the management of the disease and take a full advantage of disease-modifying therapies. They call that way for a reason, because those medications modify the prognosis, making it better.
Art, so you mentioned some of the symptoms that just kind of gave you the red flag and to check things out. How do you manage them now on a daily basis?
Well, like I said before, I swim every day. I work out. I go to physical therapy 3 times a week. Like the doctor said, you need to be proactive about it. And I do my treatments. And I stay active. One thing I learned from someone talking to them when I first got MS is they're like, don't stop moving, keep moving every day. So being on tour is something that, I have to work harder at it than I used to.
And I mean, you're still doing it though, so that's really incredible. Dr. Berkovich, what is the most important thing people should know about their treatment options?
First of all, there are many of them, and they are not the same. They are very different. If you experienced 1 or 2, doesn't mean that you know everything about options that we have. For example, Tysabri, the medication that worked so well for Art, also called natalizumab by Biogen, is the company that we are here with today. This is a monthly infusion. And it's approved by FDA for relapsing forms of MS in adults, has been proven to slow down disease progression and prevent relapses, has been also associated with the risk of PML, progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, which may cause death or disability. And this is why whoever living with MS may consider this medication, please talk to your doctor. And you also can go to the tysabri.com for the complete information on this important medication.
All right. Well, it sounds like Art is doing all the right things. You're able to tour and be the rock star that you are. A message for those who might be going through the same thing, prime of their life, and then dealing with some of the challenges and overcoming them and still thriving. Art, how do you talk to people like that?
Well, thanks for asking, Jane. I mean, I talk to people at shows almost every day, and what I tell them is that you're not alone. Like the doctor said, over 3 million people have this disease, and it's really scary when they first give you that diagnosis. You hear the words multiple sclerosis, and when I first heard it, I had no idea what it was, and thankfully with my wife, we learned more about it. And I went to a doctor and got into treatment. And I tried a couple of different treatments until Tysabri, when I started working with Dr. Berkovich, she put me on Tysabri. And it really, really works with my lifestyle, the monthly infusions and just the lack of side effects. It's been a blessing for me, for sure. And anybody who has any questions about it can go to tysabri.com. tysbri.com.
That's great. And then it's worth mentioning that Art donates $1 from every ticket to MS charities to help with research and just giving back. So that's super cool. Dr. Berkovich, anything else that we should know?
Well, I would like to wish everyone the best of health. Don't give up. It's up to you. Take initiative, find a doctor that you can really trust and who has the best of your interest in the mind.
Art Alexakis and Dr. Regina Berkovich, thank you too. Appreciate your time and the conversation.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you very much.
Take care. And we'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 10:11 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we want to talk about financial news because the markets have seen some significant volatility in recent days, leaving many investors asking, where's the money? So here to help us make sense of all of this turbulence or not is Mark Henry from Alloy Wealth Management. And Mark is a regular friend of the Live Impact News stream here. Mark, how's it going this morning?
Fabulous today.
All right, so let's start with this big picture. What do you see as the primary drivers behind this news?
Well, you know, the question that's on everybody's mind is 26th the year that we see this big market pull down, draw down, crash, recession, whatever anybody wants to call it. It all means the same thing. Our portfolios, our money is gone or lower.
Right.
And so what's going on? Well, we have high valuations, and we've had it for quite some time. You know, Warren Buffett talked about it. The Buffett indicator, stock market cap to GDP, is at a near record high of 221%. The CAPE ratio is evaluated, seen historically high levels. Well, anytime when you think high evaluation, that means the business is valued higher, the stock is valued higher than maybe even the earnings are suggesting it should be worth. So we're seeing these high valuations, that's what they mean. Then we turn that into market volatility. So we're seeing a lot of, it goes up one day, it goes down the next. The other day it was down, then it went right back up. What in the world's going on there? And then we have economic uncertainty. So as I was driving over, and it was actually clear roads, and it felt not warm, but I wasn't freezing. I was like, this is kind of nice. I was thinking about what exact week in the last few years have we not had every one of those? Maybe the valuations weren't as high, but is there not economic uncertainty for the last 5 years of some kind or another? High inflation or this or that or jobs reports. We live in this world of information that has changed everything. And when I say it's changed everything, we can point to 10 different things that tell us the market's going to go down in 26, and I can find you another 10 or 15 that tell you it's going to go up.
Oh boy. So
what do you do?
How do you make sense of all of this?
How do you make sense of it? What can you do?
Yeah.
Time in the market. Let's stay with that. Stay invested. Stay invested in quality things. That's the great news. Now, should you be aggressive? I think if I was 70 years old and retired, I wouldn't want to be aggressive right now. I'd want to be much more diligent. I would want to have a bucket of money that would be aggressive. It's my long-term growth money to beat inflation with. But I wouldn't need it. When you say, what do you mean you wouldn't need it? I wouldn't need it today, because if I need it today, it shouldn't even be invested. If I need it the next 2 or 3 years, I shouldn't have it aggressively invested or even moderately invested. On the other side, if I'm young and working, why wouldn't I want to be in this market that's making money with all the vulnerability? Hey, it's still up. We're still making money. Why wouldn't I want to take part in that and grow wealth for one day to leave my legacy, for one day to retire and do the things I want to do in life?
Okay, so we hear these buzz terms, like you said, economic volatility and the uncertainty, rather. So if you're young, and what is young? 30s, 40s?
Yeah, I would say 20s, 30s, 40s, absolutely.
All right, so go ahead and just put it in your quality
go big.
market. Go big.
Yeah.
All right, go big, and then just, you know, I like to just kind of turn my back on it all,
Right, just
and
don't
not
worry
look
about
at it.
Well, look at it for what it is. If the market takes a downturn, have a yard sale, get more money to go buy more good stuff on
That's one
sale.
way to look at it.
On sale.
On sale, okay.
Right, and now we're heading into that middle stage of life. Now we're starting to get into be more serious about how much we can afford to lose, and so we're having a good portion of our money not at risk, a portion of it that's just not at risk at all. Okay, and then we have a portion that's mildly invested, moderately, and then we still have aggressive long-term growth money that if it went down tomorrow a bunch, we just won't look at it.
All right.
But we have the other money that we could look at and know we didn't lose in.
Okay. All right. So it depends on where you are in life.
It is.
Are there particular sectors or areas where some are doing better than others, or where we should be looking at now?
Yeah, and so there's always that. There's 100% always something we could point to. But that's kind of like looking at, say, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, a while back when it was over 100,000 a token or coin, and going, wow, I got to get some of that. But why aren't they looking at it today? If you're an aggressive investor and you want crypto, well, it's on its way down. It's, I mean, who knows how low Bitcoin's going to go? It's hit the 70,000 number or somewhere in thereabouts. Why aren't we looking at it going, ooh, it's on the way down, maybe I should start buying it? But that's not how logic works. See, what happens is everybody wants what's hot. If it's already hot, you might be too late, like the tech sector right now, NVIDIA, all these other stocks, not giving anybody examples. But I'm just saying, think about all the things that are, quote, hot today. Where were you 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
This is where you build a good, solid portfolio by investing in quality items, and then you stay in the market. Not timing the market, in the market.
Okay. So if it's hot today, it's kind of like, well, it was hot a while ago. So not that you're too late.
Not at all.
But it's a little tricky if you want to time the market.
Right.
Okay, what do you tell your clients at this, when things get funky like this?
Well, so when you think about our clients, the ones we manage their money, they've already built it out in a way with a plan done by a certified financial planner. So they have their immediately available money. Market risk wouldn't have any to that whatsoever. They have their income plan where they're retired and they have income coming in, or maybe they're not retired and their income is their paycheck, so they're good there. They're saving toward retirement. They have their short-term money, they have their medium strategy money, and their long-term money. And so while none of us want to see a market downturn, it's inevitable. The question is when. I don't have a crystal ball for that, neither does anybody else, regardless of what they want to tell you.
Yeah, and that's when people ask, what should we be looking at?
Right. Who knows? So the idea is you can have peace and calm in your life when you build a confident financial future, not putting all your eggs in one basket, being diverse both inside Wall Street, which I love, and also outside of Wall Street. We have clients that have real estate portfolios, all different things. So the idea is it's your money. And so you're not looking to YouTube or anybody else to tell you what to do with your money. You're going to do it your way. But we have to do it in a way that makes sense so we don't have to panic if the market does go down tomorrow. We can do what you said. Don't look at it because we have other money that we can look at.
Right. That's the benefit of having a planner, I suppose. What is the sentiment, would you say, then, for American consumers, those working, able to pay themselves first? Is it a panic overall, or should people stay calm?
I think it's 100% you should stay calm if you've done the hard work and have a diverse portfolio. I don't mean diverse meaning all in one asset class. Diverse inside and outside, an emergency fund, a short-term bucket. And it's using bucket strategies. A lot of people use this, they don't understand it, but it's really simple. It's assigning a job to the dollars you have. You're being a good steward of your money when you clearly have a plan that you understand. You don't have to be an analyst, you don't have to be an advisor, but no, I know what this bucket's for. This is my 20-year from now bucket. This is my leave to the children bucket. I've already paid tax on it. It's a Roth. I'm going to be aggressive as heck because I don't care. I'm not using it for 20 years, and I want to see high growth. This money I'm going to start using in the next couple of years. I have a son going off to college. I have this or that. That money doesn't need to have any volatility in the markets.
Okay.
And you just build from one extreme to the other with different buckets. And you say, well, that takes a lot of money. No, it doesn't. I didn't tell you how much needs to be in each bucket. You can do this with short-term money. It could be enough, your emergency fund. Again, that's not going to be invested at all. But when you plan like this, it takes the fear away. Because what's the whole point of doing this if you're fearful the entire time? You're fearful as the market goes up because you don't want to see it go down. Market's going down. Now you're fearful because you're losing money.
Yeah.
We got to stop the chaos.
I don't understand how day traders can, do it every day, just even as a hobby. I mean, I would be obsessed. All right, and then before all your buckets, that emergency fund is
always first.
Always first.
Always first. Before you pay off the debt, before anything, you have to have an emergency fund. It's been my experience, you want to get out of debt, and the next thing you know, the time you get a couple credit cards paid off, you have an emergency. And with no emergency fund, guess what goes back on the credit card? The emergency. Can't do it that way. Emergency fund is always first.
All right. Mark Henry, anything else that we should know for today?
While I love the news, and there's so much good things that come out of the news, don't let fear be one of them. This is your life. It's your money. You control it. You be in charge of what you're going to do with your money.
All right. All right. We are proactive and we are going to be positive and not panicked through all of this. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Always. We'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back now at 10:23 on Live Impact News. Let's get you out to South Carolina. Happening right now is the South Carolina Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It's a rally for DUI reform happening live. Let's listen in on Live Impact News.
As put in, we know it's going to take the House some time, so we ask for them to stay strong, for them to stay focused on what will keep our roads safe and to get to it. Ultimately, if we do this, our officers and our prosecutors will be able to enforce and prosecute the DUI laws without feeling like one hand is tied behind their back. Those who get arrested will ultimately get the sort of sanctions not only that they deserve, but will reduce the likelihood of them doing it again, ultimately so that it will reduce crashes, reduce injuries, and save lives. So impaired driving ends here. Let's do it. Thank you for being here. We'll take questions if we have them. Thank you. All right, I'll let you two come forward. Come on up. Yes, sir. We have, Nick.
Mentioned to me that some DUI cases are for a trial and some murder cases in some cases. And obviously, we've had DUI legislation on the books for years. We've been tinkering for a while, for improvements once in a while. But never really seems to get us there. As far as what's in this bill, what are maybe the largest strides for you as a prosecutor as far as being able to gather evidence? Can you just talk a little bit more about the specific group?
It can't. Well, like I say, the video statute's been a huge problem for us because obviously any slight mistake, can you imagine you're a trooper out there, and these officers can tell you out there, any officer doing a DUI arrest, you got to focus where this person is. You got to make sure they're just perfect in front of the cameras and everything else, and you got to be able to see everything from the feet to the head. So now weather conditions, where they are, they may be sloped like this. They have to try to get somewhere level. It creates all kinds of issues. This bill eliminates that. It makes it more like, obviously we want it on video, but it don't have to be, perfect from that standpoint. Because everybody thinks of, TVs like Hollywood. This ain't Hollywood. I just tell you, these officers will tell you out there they're working trying to do this and trying to watch out. And the other thing too is we're seeing a lot more drug DUIs, just not alcohol-related DUIs, with the meth, the fentanyl, the marijuana, all those different drugs. And obviously a breathalyzer is not going to read that. A urine test is not going to tell you anything. We need the blood test. And that's where it's focusing on to monitorize our laws, to follow that. And to get that blood test done, and that way we can see exactly what's in the person's system at the time. Wherever urine, you're just, for example, marijuana can stay in urine for 30 days, so it's not going to tell you anything. That blood test will do that. And that's just the two of the most glaring areas. I can go, like I said, Stephen, I can go through piece by piece. This is the first comprehensive bill I've seen to try to cover everything. For example, we're trying to do prevention with interlock devices and things. It's covering all the way across the board. We're trying to prevent as well as prosecute. It's trying to work it all together to help. The goal is to make our state safer. I mean, we're having too many people die on the roads and get injured. What's even horrible is that the cases where people don't die and what they have to live with. Like this poor lady has to live without her leg for the rest of her life. We don't want that. I'll never forget, I had a lady come in one time and she was, I mean, totally dependent. And she came in the courtroom and everybody thought she didn't understand what was going on. The defense started talking and she started moaning. I've never forgotten that either. I can go through case after case after case how people's been affected. And you don't walk away from this. I mean, it is going to affect you the rest of your life, and that's the reason why this legislation is so important, to change those video laws, to change where we can get blood tests and things like that. And make enforcement, for example, if you refuse, there's got to be additional penalties for that. Because, like I said, the people, jurors now want to know, I mean, they want more. And we need to give them more to help convict in these cases if we have to go to trial on them. So that's the reason why, and I'd be glad to talk to you in more detail, Nick, but that's two of the biggest areas I can tell you about.
That's a perfect segue to the question for Senator Davis.
Yeah.
In the debate we focused a lot of time on the blood draw in particular. I think that's the very first I was curious, the question there also really got in, but do you anticipate that potentially being an issue in the House, or what areas do you see that might be sticking points on that side?
I think an issue in regard to educating the House members as to how it's constitutional, how a blood draw is conditioned upon a reasonable suspicion, about how it's done in a safe way by a medical professional who's qualified to do it, about why it's necessary in terms of picking up things that may impair a driver's ability to drive. As Solicitor Barnett indicated, a breathalyzer and a urine analysis will not pick up the presence of drugs in the system. And the other thing I would mention is this. I mean, the law being amended and updated and loopholes being closed and all those things, incredibly important. But the second piece to that is making sure that when a case is tried, that a solicitor is on the other side of the table prosecuting the case. And so one of the important things about this bill and the way that it's gotten stronger on the Senate floor is that there is now a requirement that there be a solicitor, an attorney, prosecuting this case against often a highly skilled criminal defense attorney. So it levels the playing field in that regard. And so another piece to this particular reform is going to be me working with the Senate Finance Chairman, Harvey Peeler, to make sure there's a sufficient recurring appropriation in the budget to cover the cost of those solicitors. Because it's one thing for us to say in statute, this is what we want to have done. It's another thing to actually provide the resources. That's how a state really speaks to what its priorities are in the budget. And so while this is going on in the House and we try to keep this bill together and to keep it in the form that it's currently in the Senate, and maybe they improve it even further, I'll be working with the Senate Finance Chairman to provide the financial resources to make this particular law a reality on the ground. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other questions from the media? Yes, sir. Adrian? Yes.
Okay, so he left the scene, so he wasn't there. So it was going to be tougher to prosecute a person who you can't say was there. So they had to get the breathalyzer or the blood test or whatever after the fact, which means if we go to court, then he's going to say he was drinking when he got where he got to. He's not going to admit he drank on the scene, which is why they didn't want to push to prosecute it, even though I wanted them to push to prosecute it. But they feel less likely that they'll get the result they're looking for if it went that way. So it's just harder, you know, to get somebody to admit, yes, I left you there for dead. My son was dead. I was trapped in the car. My daughter was trapped in the car. And he left the whole scene. He called his brother to come pick him up. And then I don't even know where the prosecution for that has went. So it's hard to, we're just saying he did this one thing. So he got charged with felony leaving the scene of an accident. That's just not what happened. But that's where we're at, and that was the plea deal. And so he had 15 years, and he'll do 15% of that time. I mean, he'll do 85% of that time. So what does that really mean? It doesn't feel like justice. It doesn't feel like a fair sentence. My son's never going to come back. So the loss is not just my leg. And he gets to get away with it because what? Because he'll leave jail in 12 years or something, and then what? He'll be with his family, and he'll go work a job, and he'll be able to make money, and he'll be fine. He didn't have insurance, so what do I get besides this leg? Yeah.
Mr. Barnett wanted to follow up on that.
Follow up on that question. There was one other thing, and following up what Nick said too. Another issue we were dealing with too is blood draws, for example. The way it is now, it has to be done at a hospital from that standpoint. This bill will open it up where anybody that's qualified could do it and make like an EMS or whatever at the location. The problem we're running into, we're very fortunate in my circuit in Spartanburg and Cherokee counties. Spartanburg Regional works with the law enforcement to help them get the blood draws. Other hospitals do not. So you have people traveling from one county all the way maybe 2 or 3 counties over to get to a hospital. Time is the essence because obviously the alcohol is leaving the person's system, the drugs leaving the person's system. And that's one thing this bill does is create more opportunities to get the blood draws earlier. Because right now, in some parts of the state, it takes hours to get them. And obviously the blood results are totally different, you know, after that period of time. It just needs to be done quicker. That way at the scene, hopefully if somebody EMS there could do it at the scene in the back of their EMS or wherever from that standpoint. Hopefully that bill will make it a much quicker time. Because like what she says, it's perfect. People leave the scene all the time because they know they're under the influence. And it makes a much tougher case. And people say, well, you're leaving the scene, you know, that's not a big deal, felony DUI. Well, both of them are big deals. I'm just telling you. The reason why a lot of people leave the scene is because they've been drinking or under the influence of drugs. So it's just as big a deal to me as the felony DUI. But like I said, the challenges that we face, like what I was just telling you, can you imagine going to a hospital in a rural county and they say, we're not going to draw the blood. And you have to drive to Richland, Spartanburg, Charleston, somewhere to get it. Well, that blood is going to be totally different. It could even, you know, if it's below 0.05, we presume they're not under the influence of alcohol. Even though 6 hours earlier, they could be up around 12 or 13. So it's a big deal. So that's the reason I wanted to follow up with it.
Thanks. All right, I know we have some of our victims and survivors whose cases have been adjudicated. I know are willing to do some interviews after one-on-one with the media if you would like. Other than that, I will say thank you to everyone for being here so much. This is an important day, and hopefully we'll have something to celebrate by the end of the afternoon. Thank you so much for being here, and let's go make a difference today. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, ma'am. We got this done.
Hey, Steve. Good to see you, man. It's been a while. How are you? From a long time ago. I was distracted. I was like, is that Kennard? It's like, it's been a long time.
I think I'm taking a picture with them. Okay.
It looks like that live DUI travel rally in South Carolina is wrapping up from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We'll take a break here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 10:37 here on Live Impact News, want to bring you some breaking news updates. The first out of Arizona with Pima County Sheriff's Office posting this on their social media just moments ago when it comes to the mother of Today co-anchor Savannah Guthrie. The mom, Nancy Guthrie, has been missing since Saturday. But at this point, investigators have not identified a suspect or person of interest in this case. Detectives continue to speak with anyone who may have contact with Mrs. Guthrie. Detectives working closely with the Guthrie family. While we appreciate the public's concern, the sharing of unverified accusations or false information is irresponsible and does not assist the investigation. So at this time, no suspect or person of interest has been identified at this time. Also, breaking news update, this time out of Newton, where there was a shooting, officer-involved shooting that happened Monday afternoon. The person, a suspect, was charging police officers who was then shot in the leg. They transported that first suspect to the hospital where police then learned that that person left the hospital, and they were able to locate that person. So he is now back in custody. But now, at this moment, a second suspect has been arrested. So we are looking into this, and it looks like that second suspect now in the Catawba County Detention Center. With that, let's take you back out to Raleigh. This is where the sentencing hearing for mass shooting suspect Austin Thompson is taking place. He already pleaded guilty to 5 counts of murder. This is the sentencing hearing for him now. Yesterday, a lot of testimony from families of the victims. Today seems to be more evidence-based. Let's go ahead and listen in on Live Impact News.
The right hand, approximately where I'm pointing on my own right hand, and that graze wound also had stippling. I should mention, just for the sake of definition, when I'm talking about a graze wound, this is where a projectile essentially scrapes by the skin surface without definitive entrance and exit wounds.
Okay. Any other findings about that graze wound?
No.
Any other injury?
One other injury associated with the shotgun, a small graze wound of the left thumb. So the tip of the left thumb had a graze wound, and that also had associated stippling.
Okay. Did you note any other injuries that she suffered?
Ms. Carnot's also had a fracture of her left clavicle or collarbone, approximately where I'm pointing on myself. This injury was outside any of the shotgun wound tracks and may have occurred from a collapse or fall.
Okay. Was there any other, or were there any other findings related to injuries that she suffered, Ms. Carnat's?
No.
Okay. And so now we'll kind of skip ahead and we can walk through and you can, if you will, show us the photographs and discuss those injuries that you were just discussing when reviewing the photographs. And so we have that first photograph, which is the identifying shot, and kind of tell us what we're seeing.
Please give me a moment to get there.
Yes.
The first photograph is the identification photograph of Ms. Carnot's. We can see 2 entrance wounds on her body, one of the left side of the chin and one of her neck, as I'm pointing on myself. And then on the right side of her neck is a shotgun exit wound.
Okay. And the next photograph, you have labeled A and E.
I'll also add, before we go along, there are numerous red dots on Ms. Carnot's face, and those altogether represent stippling from the entrance wounds.
Got it. Yes, sir. The next photograph, which is A and E.
The next photograph, I'll begin by providing orientation. Ms. Carnot's is face down on the autopsy table. Her back is to the right side of the photograph. Her head is turned to her right as well. In order to depict injuries, I have shaved a strip of hair along the top of her head. We can see 2 labels, A and E. Those labels depict the shotgun entrance wound I labeled as A, and that's just below that letter A. and the associated exit, which is the exit I labeled as E, and that's just above the letter E appearing in this photograph. So together these show the entrance and exit of the perforating shotgun wound of the head AE.
Okay. Is there anything else of note that you want to discuss in this photograph?
No.
Okay. The next photograph, what are we looking at?
The next photograph is a closer view. The body is in the same position, and this again depicts entrance A and exit E.
Okay. Anything of note other than what we've already discussed?
No.
Okay. The next photograph, what are we looking at there?
The next photograph depicts the plastic shot cup that I labeled as shot cup E and recovered from the brain.
Anything else about that photograph?
No.
Now moving on to the next photograph.
The next photograph depicts Ms. Carnot's lying on her back. Her body has been cleaned. We can see 2 shotgun entrance wounds, one labeled as B and one labeled as C. The entrance labeled B is on the left side of her chin. We can see around that a great deal of stippling. The entrance labeled C is on the left side of her neck. And around that wound as well, we can also see a great deal of stippling.
You discussed stippling a little bit earlier, but when you're describing this, you're saying that this is a great deal of stippling. Does that have any significance to you, the quantity or amount of stippling that you're seeing?
If we test fired the same weapon with the same type of ammunition and were able to determine the spread that should occur and would be expected to cause that degree of stippling, we might make some correlations to range of fire. Otherwise, its presence is that there is a lot. This does indicate an intermediate range of fire.
Okay. And the next photograph?
The next photograph is a close-up of the shotgun entrance wound labeled as B, and again shows the extent of the stippling.
Can you also see that filler material in this photograph?
Small pieces of the filler material are visible around the edges of that wound, as well as in the lower part of the photograph, a little bit out of focus, but present as white specks.
Okay. Anything else about that photograph?
No.
And the next photograph?
The next photograph is a photograph of the exit of the right side of the neck that I labeled as G.
And in looking at that photograph, what was of note to you?
We do see some stippling, but we know that because this is an exit wound, that stippling is actually associated with some other shotgun discharge. Otherwise, nothing.
You can also see some filler there?
That's correct.
Okay. And the next photograph?
The next photograph is a close-up of shotgun entrance C on the neck. We can see a lot of stippling around there and a large area of abrasion above the wound that does not have particular value for interpretation.
Okay. Anything else about that photograph?
Other than the presence of some more of the filler material, no.
Okay. Then moving on to the next.
The next photograph depicts the exit wound labeled as F. That's associated with entrance C on the neck. This is of the left occipital scalp, approximately where I'm showing on myself, after I have shaved around the edges of that wound to show its features.
Having discussed that as you just did, is there anything else of note here?
No.
Okay. Then moving on to the next photograph.
The next photograph is a photograph of the shot cup. I recovered this shot cup in association with the perforating shotgun wound of the neck and head CF, and this was recovered from her hair.
And the next photograph?
The next photograph depicts pellet fragments that were recovered from her body and really could not be associated, these were recovered from her hair, most likely in association with the perforating shotgun wound of the neck and head CF.
And you say most likely because you can't be certain, but otherwise consistent based on your findings.
And their location, yes.
Okay. Anything else about that?
No.
Okay. Then moving on to the next.
The next photograph depicts Ms. Carnot's lying on her back. Her head is at the top of the photograph. We see a side view of her right arm, and it depicts the front of her body. We can see red specks or abrasions, and that represents the stippling that I mentioned earlier associated with this wound. We can also see that as a result of this wound, there is exposure of subcutaneous fat and muscle. Getting back to how I defined and why I defined this as a deep graze wound as opposed to something more superficial that would not have affected the subcutaneous fat or the muscle in the area.
Okay. Anything else that we're noting here?
No.
Then moving on to the next photograph.
The next photograph is a close-up view of the graze wound that I labeled as D. Again, to the front of the body or to the right side of the photograph, we can see stippling.
Okay. Anything else there?
No.
Then the next photograph.
The next photograph depicts the deep graze wound, the small graze wound of the right hand. So approximately on the back of my right hand as I'm showing, just below the letter H. And we can see around that are a number of abrasions that represent stippling.
Okay. Anything else of note in this photograph?
No.
Then the next photograph.
The next photograph depicts the small graze wound of the left thumb that I labeled as I. In this photograph, we can see an injury of the tip of the left thumb and the letter I above that as a label. We can also see the presence of stippling on the thumb and the index finger.
Is there anything else of note in that photograph?
No.
So other than the injuries that we have just discussed, based on your examination of Ms. Carnot's, were you able to make any determination, other than the injuries that we just discussed, was there anything else that you were able to determine that would have contributed to her cause of death?
There was not.
Okay. And based on your findings, did you form an opinion about manner and or cause of death?
The manner of death was homicide. The cause of death was multiple shotgun wounds.
Okay. Was there anything else of note that we have not discussed as it related to your examination of Ms. Carnot's?
No.
Okay. Then moving on to Ms. Ms. Connors, which is under tab C in State's Exhibit 8. Looking at your examination of Nicole Connors, were you able to determine how old she was at the time?
Yes, Ms. Connors was 52 years old.
And similarly, as we've just done on the last two, were you able to make any determination as to the number of times that Ms. Connors was shot?
Evaluation of injuries for Ms. Connors was more complex.
Okay. And why
If
is
we
that?
go back to the initial discussion about shotguns and shotgun wounds, we remember that as pellets travel farther away from the shotgun, they separate. And at a sufficient distance, each of the buckshot pellets fired can cause a separate entrance wound. And so as opposed to the wounds that we've been discussing for our other two cases, we don't have a single individual entrance wound from a single shotgun discharge. We instead have numerous separate entrance wounds. Furthermore, in the case of Ms. Connors, we have pellets that entered the body, exited, and then re-entered the body. And so that creates a lot of difficulty in making a specific, scientifically determinable number of how many times a shotgun was fired at her. Taking her injuries all together, though, she has a minimum of 2 separate shotgun discharges, or I should say she has a minimum of injuries from 2 separate shotgun discharges. She also had a separate injury of her head and neck that may or may not have been from a shotgun and had features more likely from a handgun than from a shotgun.
Okay. And so if you would kind of, as we have done before, were you able to categorize or group the injuries here?
In this situation, I did not attempt to apply any form of lettering because of the overlap of areas in which pellets entered, exited, re-entered, and re-exited, such that if you imagine a spread of pellets occurring in this area that I'm showing with my right hand, a separate overlapping spread of pellets that I'm showing with my left hand, it becomes impossible to separate those out. So what I did identify was that she had at least 34 separate pellet entrance wounds. Those were of her left upper arm, her left breast, her left back, her left chest, and her right upper arm. She also had at least 25 pellet exit wounds, and those were on her left breast, her left upper arm, and her right chest. From the number of pellets passing through her body, she had injuries of multiple ribs, T9, which is one of the bones of the spine. For reference, there are 7 spinal bones in the neck, C1 through C7.
We'll get back to that sentencing hearing shortly, as it looks like that picture froze just a little bit. But we are following this police investigation out of the Dallas area happening in the Chase Bank in Balk Springs, Texas. This is our content partner, our sister station, WFAA's live coverage. As you can see the aerial shots there. Looks like FBI folks are in the parking lot, but it is blocked, and definitely making for some active investigators in that parking lot for the morning at Chase Bank. So is there any audio on that from the anchors there? Nope. Okay. But that is the scene right now following the Chase Bank shooting investigation in a suburb outside of Dallas. Let's go back to Raleigh now. It looks like that picture is unfrozen for a couple more minutes in this morning session of Live Impact News.
Left to right.
Is there anything else of note for that group of 34 entrance wounds?
No.
Okay. Was there a second area of concern for you when you were making this determination of cause of death?
There was.
Where was that?
She had a single pellet wound, or more likely a gunshot wound of her head. The entrance was on the right occipital scalp, approximately where I'm pointing on myself. The exit was on her right cheek, approximately where I'm pointing on myself as well. The projectile responsible for this injury passed through her body, injuring the right mastoid region, which is a bony area. You could think about it as under the ear, approximately where I'm showing on myself, and fractured her mandible or her jaw.
Now you have opined that you say that is more consistent with a handgun rather than a shotgun pellet, and why are you making that determination?
The reason for that determination is that this injury was outlying. It had no other pellet injuries, no other findings around it. Its appearance was consistent with a handgun or gunshot wound from a handgun, but it's not scientifically possible to make that determination with 100% certainty. And so in my report, and as I'm doing here, I allowed for the possibility of either.
Okay. Was there anything else of note about the injuries or about her autopsy that you wanted to discuss before we move on to the photographs?
No.
Okay.
All right, friends, that is going to do it for this morning session of Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. This trial out of Raleigh, the sentencing hearing, I should say, is actually still happening, and you can watch that live on the secondary channel on WCNC Plus. Have a great morning. Charlotte Today is up next.